Hello and welcome to FairTax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys.
Guys.
And let's right off the top of the barrel, let's get our email address and our Facebook thing out there.
Yep.
How people can get in touch with us, because we have found out that we get some pretty good questions. We got one we talked about on our last show from Tracy Gatch. We're going to continue to touch on that a little bit. But if you've got a question or a comment about the FairTax, the FairTax Guys at gmail.com is our email address. We check that regularly. And if you ask a really good question, we'll get back to you by email for sure. If you ask a really good question like Tracy did, we'll put it on the broadcast here.
Yeah.
And also our Facebook page.
Yeah, that was worth about a half an episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's important. It's really important because it's an important question. We ask ourselves the same thing. You know, what is it going to take to get the media and Congress involved with this?
Yeah, so, if you didn't hear last week's episode, it was Tracy was asking, why is the fair tax not part of the national discussion? We never hear about it on the news. We never hear about it on these national talk shows. Why not? And we were thinking, well, the answer really is that not enough people are involved in it.
Yeah.
The politicians don't want it, and there is not enough grassroots support at this moment to get their attention. And again, there are a lot of people that were saying, "Oh, it's a great idea, but it'll never pass."
Oh,
so that just galls my gizzard no end when I hear that.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
but there is so much in there, and we want to concentrate on this program especially about what the fair tax does for you, not some theoretical discussion about how it's going to help the economy or bring jobs back or this, that, and the other. What the fair tax does for you. And we will hit that here in just a second.
Well,
I thought you were looking at me. I thought you had something to say.
I was going to do the prebate. You want to do that now?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. We talked about last time, the fair tax gets rid of tax returns. It gets rid of the IRS. It gets rid of withholding, lets you bring home the full gross amount. Your other part here is the prebate, which is actually a tax refund.
Yeah.
It is giving back to you your own money that was collected from you that you don't owe. It is not an entitlement. The government is not giving you money they collected from somebody else. You're getting your own money back. But the prebate, we've hit on this before, but it is so important that people understand this. And when enough people understand what the prebate is, they're going to want the fair tax, and they're going to get into the grassroots organizing and the grassroots fundraising that we need to get into to make this happen.
All right, and this is very important. The prebate is the key to fairness with the fair tax. On the one hand, everybody is going to pay the fair tax on everything they purchase. I mean, groceries, a new car, a new airplane, new jeans for your kids. I mean, whatever it is. Everybody's going to pay the fair tax on every product, new product, and service that they purchase.
But
okay?
Ron, that makes that regressive, and it hurts the poor.
Exactly, and that's the first thing. The Americans for Fair Taxation understood that normally a sales tax is regressive. It has a much larger negative effect on people who are just getting by than on the very wealthy people.
Yeah, it takes the same percentage of their income from the rich and the poor. And
Yeah.
the rich can afford it, the poor can't.
Yeah. So, and the fair tax is 23% because the federal government is very large and requires 23%. So how are we going to fix that? You know, obviously they faced that challenge immediately, and they went through several scenarios. Well, we could do this, we could do that. The simplest way to make the fair tax unregressive, or I should say progressive, is to provide a prebate. Now, it works like this. Health and Human Services publishes every year the poverty levels for families. Family of one, family of two, family of four.
Yeah, the poverty level varies with how many people are in your household. That just makes sense.
Right.
Because the poverty level is the definition of what it takes to provide basic necessities for your family. And the bigger your family, of course, the more it takes to provide for them.
And we just got these, a few days ago, okay? So I'm going to use a family of four, a very typical mom and dad and two kids, family of four. According to Health and Human Services, a family of four requires $32,480. That's in the continental United States. They actually have different tables for Hawaii and Alaska. Because if you've been there, they're pretty expensive. But anyways, so $32,480. So how are we going to reconcile this? First, we say everybody's going to pay the fair tax on every new product and every service.
So if you spend $32,480, 23% of that will be fair tax.
That's right, 23% inclusive So, and I don't know what well, actually, I do know. I just happen to have the figure here. So if the Health and Human Services says that if you're a family of 4, it requires a minimum of $32,480, and 23% of that is $7,470. Okay, so if you're buying food, clothing, kids for the kids, and you're paying the rent or you're paying the mortgage or whatever, then 23% of the basic necessities, $32,480, is $7,470.
And you will pay that at the cash register.
That's right.
We're not going to get into trying to figure out how much everybody makes or how much they're spending or how much of it they spent already. You collect on every dollar of sales, but this is just like a standard deduction. With the income tax, you earn X number of dollars. The first Y number of dollars, your standard deduction, you don't have to pay taxes on.
Yeah.
So they're saying you don't have to pay fair tax on your spending because the fair tax is spending, not income. You don't have to pay the fair tax on your spending up to the poverty level, but you will actually pay it at the cash register. So the prebate just gives it back to you. So your out-of-pocket tax rate, if you spend up to the poverty level, is 0.
But the nice thing is you don't have to wait a year to get it back. Because, like I said, they got these figures from Health and Human Services in the continental United States. Family of 4, $32,400. That means they're paying $74.70 for the fair tax, and so they're going to take that amount, divide it by 12, and send it to you at the beginning of the month, because they know to maintain your family, you're going to have to spend that a certain amount each month, and they know that a certain amount of that is going to be the fair tax, okay? And so they're going to send it back to you at the beginning of the month, hence the nickname Prebate. Technically, it's called the Family Consumption Allowance.
It's a rebate given in advance, so they call it a prebate.
Yeah, and so that means that that family of 4 at the beginning of each month is going to get $623. Now, what family of 4 couldn't use $623 every month? Every month.
Yes,
okay.
I remember a conversation I had with a friend of mine that says, if you get this fair tax, my tax refund goes away. I says, no, you don't. You get one every month instead of every year. And he says, I like that.
Yeah, well, who wouldn't? So that makes the fair tax completely fair. It makes it protect the people. If you have a family that is just getting by, they're earning just enough to put food on the table, clothes on their back, and pay the rent, they don't need to be responsible for all kinds of taxes and stuff, all right? They're having a heck of a time just providing for their family. Leave them alone, all right? So they're going to pay the fair tax when they go to the store, and they're going to get the fair tax back. Everybody pays the fair tax. Everybody gets the prebate. That makes it fair.
Yeah, it's not based on your income. It's based on your spending. So it doesn't matter how much income you've got, you're going to get the prebate, and it's still... Even if you're one of these multimillionaires, it is still just your money coming back to you. It's not in somebody else's money being given to you. It's your money being refunded to you for taxes that were collected from you that you did not owe. How can it be any fairer?
So anyways, every family, and again, I'm using the family of 4. It doesn't make any difference. We've got the prebate schedule. I'm going to have to find a way. I can't put a PDF on Facebook. I'm going to have to convert this to a JPEG or something and put it on there, put this table on there so people can look at it. And if I find the link to FAIRtax.org, I know it's on FAIRtax.org someplace. I will find the link and put it on our Facebook page.
Do it.
Okay? So... anyways, so that's how we take care of people that are just getting by, because you will hear that people who don't know about the fair tax and haven't taken the time to study it, their knee-jerk reaction is, oh, it's a sales tax that hurts the poor. And when they say that, you know immediately they have not taken the time to really study the fair tax and understand it, because this prebate it takes away the regressive nature of the tax, and it actually makes it progressive, because that family of 4 that's just getting by at $32,480, all right, their effective tax rate is 0. Okay, now let's say they get a raise, and now they're making $50,000. They still get the same prebate because it's still the same number of people. They get the same prebate. All right, now they're making more than just the minimum amount to maintain their family. That's good. We want people to do that. And maybe they can take vacations and buy a new TV or maybe a new car or something. But their effective tax rate won't be 23%, it'll be 8%. All right, and they figured this out. Obviously, I can't show you this on the radio. I could hold this chart up to the microphone, but I don't think that's going to do much.
I don't think that's going to work.
All right, but I got a nice graph here created by Dr. Karen Walby. She is our specialist in economics and taxation here in Florida for both the Florida group and the national group. And she's created this chart. And I will send you, I'll put it on our Facebook link. If anybody wants to write to us at thefairtaxguys@gmail.com, I'll send you the link. It's because it is on the FAIRtax.org page somewhere.
Yeah, but
it's somewhere
what's
on
amazing
that.
about this thing is that you're looking at Karen Walby's figures. In order to get, the tax is 23% inclusive, meaning for every $100 you spend, 23 of those will be fair tax. You have to spend, doesn't matter how much you make, but you have to spend close to $1 million a year for your fair tax to be close to 23%, 22.3.
I found it that I never have to worry about that, Bob.
No, me neither.
Not even close.
Yeah, I'm going to be a lot closer down to that 8.1% range as far as what you spend. And again, if this is again on what you spend, not on what you make. If you make a lot more than that, but if you save it, if you invest it, if you give it to the kids, if you do not do retail purchases of new goods and services, that's where the fair tax is applied. Anything you do with your money other than retail purchase of new goods and services, that money is not taxed. It's yours.
It's yours. It's your money. Do with it what you will. And but
you boil all this down to it. If I get the fair tax, I'm going to get a $600 check every month that I'm not getting now. Why would you not like that?
Yeah. Plus, you get your whole paycheck. Yes. Plus, another benefit of the fair tax. Now, the prebate is very important. Have we done that one enough, Bob?
Oh, I don't think you can do it enough. Because I don't know how many times we saw this survey. How many times somebody has to hear something before it really sinks in?
Yeah.
We've been talking about the prebate on this program ever since its inception. But, the theoretical part about how it makes it progressive in its application. But the thing people really need to know is if I get the fair tax, I'm going to get this money every month.
That's right.
It's money I'm not getting now. Why would you not support that? That should be enough to motivate folks to call the radio stations, to write the letters to the editor, call your congressman, show up at their office. I mean, do more than just say, hey, wow, that's a great idea, but it'll never pass.
So, and just so you know, the prebate, if it's just a couple and there are no children, that couple gets $482, okay? If it's a couple with one dependent, it's $542. And with three dependents, a couple with three dependents, $703.
Yeah, one thing the fair tax does, it eliminates the marriage penalty. Because if you've got a single parent household, then your prebate is basically going to be, for one person versus a couple with no dependents in either case. Your prebate is going to be half of it for one person. You'll get twice it if you got two people.
Yeah.
So the marriage penalty goes away. Every individual gets this prebate.
Now, there's an aspect of this. I want to go on to another thing that is a huge benefit to people, because we're talking about how does this benefit you?
If it benefits you enough, you'll get involved and active.
Yeah, all right. You get your whole paycheck. You get the prebate. Another big benefit is that used stuff is not subject to the fair tax. Okay? If you buy a used car, and that's a biggie. Mm-hmm. If you buy a used car, no fair tax because it's already been taxed once. No double dipping. If you buy a used house, we don't call them used houses, do we? Pre-owned or gently owned.
Existing.
Or, they have all kinds of euphemisms for them. But used stuff is not subject to the fair tax because it was already taxed once. So if you're a family that's just getting by under the fair tax, you're now getting your whole paycheck. You're now getting the prebate. And if you choose to buy a used car, you're going to have a huge benefit there because that won't be subject to the fair tax, and that will be a more reasonable purchase for you. So for families that are just getting by, the fair tax is a godsend. I mean, it's terrific for these people. It really helped them out. So for people that say that hear about the fair tax, don't study it, and knee-jerk reaction say, "Oh, it's a sales tax that'll hurt the poor," they really don't know what they're talking about, because the fair tax truly, truly, truly helps the poor better than any other tax plan ever devised, and certainly better than what we're getting out of Congress right now.
All right, let's go through the list again of things that the fair tax will do for you as an individual. It means that you no longer have to fill out a tax return. That goes away. It means that the withholding out of your paycheck or your retirement distribution, I mean, we get taxes held out of our Social Security payments. No more federal withholding out of any income that you get. No more federal payroll taxes. Now, let's make this distinction too. Getting rid of the payroll taxes that support Social Security and Medicare does not mean that we're getting rid of Social Security and Medicare. You're actually putting it on a more stable financial footing, because you're extending the tax base to people who aren't paying that now. Those taxes are only paid by people who are working for wages. If you're living off investments, you're not paying Social Security and Medicare taxes.
Yeah.
So the fair tax actually puts the Social Security and Medicare programs on a firmer financial footing. But let's go. It gets rid of your tax returns. It gets rid of your withholding. Gets rid of your payroll taxes. It gives you this monthly prebate, and that should do it.
That's a huge benefit. I mean, like I said, for families that are just getting by, or families that are doing more than just getting by, it's a huge benefit. So it's real. It's really a great plan, all right? And
Well, actually, if you don't spend up to the consumption allowance, you're allowed to spend this much tax-free. If you spend less, your tax rate is negative. You get more in prebate than you pay at the register.
Yeah, that's true.
How cool is that?
I don't know how you do that with like this family of four.
Yeah,
because kids are expensive. Oh. Have you seen those sneakers?
Oh, tell me about it. At least mine is grown and eating out of her own refrigerator now, and not mine. But we'll
so, anyways, so used stuff is not taxed. You get the prebate, you get your whole paycheck. You don't have to do a tax return. There would be no IRS poking into your personal affairs. How much
can
better?
People look at that and say it'll never pass?
Oh,
how do we say? Once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
I'll tell you, that is true. That's not just a little catchphrase we close every program with. If you fully understand that you will no longer have any income tax returns, that you will get the full gross amount of your paycheck or your retirement distribution, that you will, on top of that, get this monthly prebate. And if you want to be an environmentalist and do used stuff instead of new, hey, that works too. That sounds like a good way to encourage that.
Yeah, and I forgot the environmental aspect. Yep, that protects the environment because it encourages people to buy used stuff, and that does protect the environment. So it's good from that aspect. All right, there's a lot of good things going on here. Now, if you're like my own children are very busy working their jobs, running their businesses, raising their families and so forth, all the demands of, normal family life. And they don't have a lot of time to say, like, do a radio program like Bob and I do.
Mm-hmm. Us old retired folks with more time on our hands than we know what to do with, right?
So I understand these folks are, everybody's very, very busy. It's a busy world out there. But there's some very simple things you can do to promote the fair tax, okay? Where do we want to start? I mean, there's a number of things.
Well, I want to hit on this again because Tracy was again lamenting the fact that the fair tax is not part of the national discussion. And part of the national discussion, a large part of the national discussion, are these national talk shows. And like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and stuff. And again, I'll mention this if you didn't hear it last time, that Sean Hannity has now got something he calls the Hannity Hotline. It's a voicemail box. You can call him and leave him a message. So I would love for millions of people to call him at 877-225-8587, 877-225-8587, and just tell Sean, hey, we know you like it. Start talking about the fair tax, will you?
Yeah.
That'll work.
That's a great way. And if he gets enough messages about the fair tax, he'll respond to it.
Well, I know he likes it because he had Bortz on as a guest when Neil first wrote the book, and he says he loves it. And I'm just wondering if
Bortz, he's talked to Huckabee. He's talked to Herman Cain before about the fair tax over the years. Yeah.
So we need to prod him out of it's a great idea, but it'll never happen, so I'm not wasting any time on it, to, hey, this is a great idea. Let's get it passed.
Yeah. So that's one way you can help. If you want to contact the White House, and give them a piece of your mind.
Be sure you can afford it now.
It's whitehouse.gov/contact. Whitehouse.gov/contact. Very simple. And you'll see this form pop up. You can choose to send a message to the president, the vice president, the first lady, and I can't remember the other one. And then you can give it your name and your address and so forth, your contact information, and then type. There's a box, and it's completely open. You can say anything you want. Now, you want to be careful because you are talking to the president, okay? But you got to tell these folks, both the president and the vice president, and if you care to, the first lady also, that the fair tax, they really have to look at the fair tax. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of discussion, you might say, and that's putting it nicely, in Congress right now about the Ryan plan, because he's catching a lot of heat about his border adjustability tax, and I'm not sure President Trump is on board with that. So this is the time to do it. Whitehouse.gov/contact. Tell him all the virtues about the fair tax and how it's going to help his agenda. It really will. You want to drain the swamp? How will eliminating the IRS go towards draining the swamp? I think that's a big step, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
And you want to decrease the influence that lobbyists have on Congress? Make it so the Congress critters can no longer sell tax favors.
Yeah, because that's what they're doing.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Oh, speaking of which, is it time for...
yeah, it is. We want to get this in. We're looking at congress.gov, and there are close to, of course, we found out if you look on the search on the string, Internal Revenue Code of 1986, you'll get all of the proposals where changes to that code are being proposed in Congress, and you found another goodie. Now, I'm not sure I understand this one. You might have to speak slowly. I'm a simple man, okay?
Well, at the time of this recording, Congress has been in session. The 115th Congress has been in session a little over 2 months. And as Bob said, if you do, quote, congress.gov and do a search for, quote, the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, end quote, you'll come up with, like probably over 300
it's 290
bills.
As of this recording.
And this one is S505, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to provide for an energy equivalent of a gallon of diesel in the case of liquefied natural gas for purposes of Inland Waterways Trust Fund financing rate.
I'm not sure I fully understand that, but think about this. The agency that is charged with funding the government, collecting taxes, is trying to balance some kind of equivalency between diesel fuel and liquefied natural gas. Why is that part of the tax collection process?
Yeah. I mean, what else can they put in here? The kitchen sink? I wouldn't
Is that why we have 70,000 pages of tax code?
Last week we talked about getting the Internal Revenue Code involved with expenses for fitness and exercise. How far will that go? Is water skiing an exercise? Do I deduct the gas from my boat? I mean, it gets crazy. And this one, a gallon of diesel in the case of liquefied natural gas for the purposes of inland water. And there's no summary. I tried to get the summary so I could better understand it. Now, they haven't written a summary yet.
Well, that's part of it. They make this so complicated we can't understand it.
Yeah.
I look at that, and I'm not sure what they're actually doing, except that they're trying to compare a gallon of diesel with a gallon of liquefied natural gas. Why is that the concern of the IRS? I don't know.
Yeah, it just makes and it's
that's why it costs $12 billion a year to fund that agency.
Yeah, and this little it'll probably never pass, but still, it is a proposal, and it could become law, and it could make the tax code even that much more complicated. It'll only affect a certain number of people, but if there's a deduction for one group, the rest of us have to make up for it. There's a certain amount of money that it takes to run the government. Now, hopefully we can, become more efficient in running the government, but still it takes a certain amount of money. So if there's a tax deduction or a legal credit or something like that in one respect, the rest of the people have to pay for it.
Yeah, if some people can avoid it, somebody else has to pay it.
Yeah.
And avoidance and evasion aren't the same thing. Avoidance is legal. Evasion is not.
So you've got the IRS and, this agency that's universally hated, all right? You've got the tax code that, because of things like this, are changing almost on a daily basis, all right? You've got lobbyists that are that are working on Congress people, members of Congress daily trying to get new changes onto the tax code out of them. You've got all this confusion. You got tax returns. You got record keeping. Get rid of it all. All right? Forget about it.
Forget about it. Yeah. Sonny would be proud.
Yeah, exactly. Forget about all that stuff and go with the FairTax.
Yeah.
The FairTax, as we said, is so much simpler and so much better for the American people.
No more tax returns, no more IRS, no more auditing, no more withholding, no more federal payroll taxes. You get a monthly prebate of several $100s, $623 for a two-parent, two-child household. There is so much to love with the FairTax that you don't get with the income tax that once you understand it, you have got to demand it.
Yeah, that's right.
Amen.
So you can help. Bob gave you the number for the Hannity hotline.
Oh, something else you can do.
Yeah.
Get the free app and listen to FTPR. Listen to FairTax Power Radio and encourage your friends to do the same thing.
For iPhone and Android, free app. Go to your app store and just look for FairTax Power Radio. There's the free app. It's a great way to listen to FairTax Power Radio and tell others about FairTax Power Radio. Don't keep it a secret, okay? Let other people know. Because this is one of our efforts to try to get a lot of people knowledgeable about the FairTax. Because when a lot of people get knowledgeable about the FairTax, Congress will not be able to avoid it.
Okay, and one more thing we haven't mentioned yet is our Facebook Live events. We've got another one coming up. We're going to be doing it on April the 15th.
Well, maybe 15th or 18th, because it's actually... the tax day is Monday the 18th.
Yeah, because the 15th falls on a holiday.
It's going to be near tax day. We haven't figured it out yet. We got to make sure Randy's available.
Okay.
All right. And that would let us do it on a Monday night rather than a Saturday night.
Okay. We'll nail that down and let you know.
You check our Facebook page, and as soon as we know, we'll put it on there. Okay.
Okay, again, if you want to get in touch with us, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com is the email address. Thanks again, Tracy, for your question and comment about why it's not part of the national discussion. Call the Hannity hotline. Ask him to make it part of the national discussion. Go to bigsolution.org.
Call your Congress critters.
Call your Congress critters. Listen to FairTax. There's an endless number of things you can do. And if getting your full paycheck, plus getting a monthly prebate, plus never having to fill out a tax return again isn't enough to get you motivated, then you're just dead. That's all.
But they are listening.
They are listening. I hope so. Hopefully on the free app.
So, and like I said, let other people know about FairTax Power Radio. We need to get a lot of people on board with this movement, and then we'll get it. We'll get it done.
Okay, so we'll see you on our Facebook Live events. Of course, you can always leave us a comment on Facebook.
Oh, absolutely.
That is becoming the best way to get in touch with us, even though we do look at our email address constantly. We do look at the Facebook as well. That's a little more interactive, and it also lets other people join the discussion.
Yeah.
A private email discussion is one thing, but if we can open up a topic and get more people engaged, that's the whole idea. We have got to get people engaged on the FairTax.
Yep. So, webinar once a month, the fourth Thursday of each month. You have to register in advance by going to fairtax.org/webinar. Register in advance. It'll send you a reminder and a link to enter the webinar. It's interactive. You can also interact with them and send in your questions, and they will get answers for you.
And if you do a lot of online shopping, FairtaxRewards.com.
FairTax Rewards. Go to FairtaxRewards.com first, then go to the store or search for the item you're looking for and buy it from whatever store, have it delivered at home, tell them you're going to pick it up at the store. But if you go to FairtaxRewards.com first, you get a small stipend, and so does the Americans for Fair Taxation.
So it's just, the same prices is just like shopping online with any of your online retailers. You just go through that little portal first, and the Fair Tax will benefit. We sure appreciate that. And that's going to wrap it up, do it for this edition of FairTax Power Radio. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
We are the FairTax Guys, reminding you that the Fair Tax is America's big solution to our big problems, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
FairTax is coming, don't stand in the way. FairTax is coming across the USA.